My fiancé said at our engagement party, I said yes only for the pretty ring, I never wanted to marry you. She was drunk. I answered, thanks for being honest. Then I pulled the ring off her finger in front of 80 guests. When she woke up sober the next morning and realized what she did, my entire world crashed at my engagement party. I just didn't know it yet, not until Chloe's drunken confession cut through the music, shattering everything. I only said yes because the ring was beautiful, she slurred, laughing. I never wanted to marry you. Then, in front of 80 guests, the very next morning, I took the ring off her finger. I was 32, and just 4 years earlier, I truly believed I'd found the love of my life. Chloe was 29, stunning, sharp, and everyone, absolutely everyone, said we were a perfect match. After 2 years, we moved into a beautiful apartment downtown, splitting rent, and it felt like my life was finally falling into place. I wasn't rich, but I had a stable job, and I'd been meticulously saving for months, determined to propose in a way that felt right. I visited 3 different jewelry stores before I found it, the perfect ring. A platinum band with a dazzling 1.5-carat diamond. It set me back a staggering $15,000. I certainly didn't have that kind of cash just sitting around, so I took out a small personal loan and put the rest on my credit card. But I didn't care, not then. I loved her, and I wanted her to wear something she'd truly be proud of. I spent weeks planning the proposal, even asking her dad, Richard, for his blessing. I practiced what I'd say in front of the mirror like a total idiot. When I finally proposed at her favorite restaurant, she cried, said yes, and I genuinely felt like the luckiest man alive. We immediately started planning the wedding. Chloe wanted a big engagement party, a grand celebration with all our friends and family before the actual ceremony. I agreed, wanting nothing more than to make her happy. We booked a gorgeous venue for 80 guests, champagne, catering, live music, the whole 9 yards. It cost me another $8,000, but I thought, hey, it's a once-in-a-lifetime moment, she deserves it. I even hired David, a videographer, for $1,500 because she kept saying she wanted to remember every single moment. The night of the party, everything truly seemed perfect. Chloe looked absolutely stunning in a white cocktail dress. The venue was decorated exactly to her taste, and constant congratulations flooded in. I was near the DJ, chatting with my brother, Mark, when I saw Chloe at the bar with her maid of honor, Sarah, and a few other friends. They were laughing loudly, clearly a few drinks in. I watched her gesture with her hand, showing off the ring to someone new, and I smiled, starting to walk over to join them. That's when her voice cut through the music. She was louder than she realized, that drunk kind of loud where you have no idea who can hear you. I only said yes because the ring was beautiful, she giggled. I never wanted to marry him. The music didn't stop, but in my head, it absolutely did. Sarah's face drained of color, and a few people nearby turned to stare. I froze, about 10 feet away, and felt Mark's hand gently on my shoulder. Chloe didn't notice me at first. She was still laughing, but then her friend pointed in my direction, and her smile instantly vanished. The whole room wasn't staring yet, but enough people had heard that the energy had completely shifted. I walked up to her, trying to stay calm, and saw the panic flash in her eyes. She opened her mouth to speak, but I didn't let her. Thanks for the honesty, I said, loud enough for everyone close by to hear. Then I reached down, took her left hand, and slid the ring right off her finger. She tried to pull her hand back, but I already had it. She started to protest, claiming she didn't mean it, but I was already turning away. People were definitely staring now, whispers spreading through the crowd like wildfire. I walked straight to the exit, the ring heavy in my pocket, hearing her calls behind me, her voice cracking. She was shouting that it was a joke, that she was just drunk, begging me to come back. I didn't turn around. Mark caught up with me outside, and we got into his car. He didn't ask a single question, just drove. The venue coordinator called me an hour later, asking what happened and if the party should continue. I told her to shut it down and send me the final bill. That night, I sat alone in our apartment, staring at the ring on the coffee table. It hit me then, the entire life I'd been building was based on a lie. Chloe came home around midnight, crying and apologizing, but I locked myself in the bedroom and didn't come out until morning. I couldn't even look at her. The next morning, I woke up to 47 missed calls and over 100 texts from Chloe, her friends, and her family. I ignored them all, packed a bag, and went to stay with Mark. I took the ring with me, locked safely in my travel bag. I wasn't leaving it there for her. Mark had just installed a Ring doorbell the week before, saying it made him feel safer, and I was so grateful for it. 3 days later, Chloe was still blowing up my phone, saying she needed to talk, that she didn't mean it, that the alcohol made her say things she didn't believe. But the thing was, drunk words are sober thoughts, and I couldn't unhear what she'd said. I kept replaying it in my head, not just the words, but the way she laughed when she said them. Like our entire relationship was a joke she'd been telling her friends. That wasn't a slip of the tongue. That was the truth. And she'd been lying to me for months, maybe even since the day I proposed. A week after the party, I finally agreed to meet her at a coffee shop to talk. She showed up looking like she hadn't slept in days, makeup smudged, eyes red and puffy. She immediately started apologizing, saying she'd made a terrible mistake, that she was drunk and stupid and didn't mean any of it. I sat there, calm, stirring my coffee, and asked her one simple question: why would she say something like that if she didn't mean it? She stumbled over her words, trying to explain she was nervous about the wedding, that her friends were pressuring her to be funny, that she just said something dumb without thinking. None of it made sense, and I could see in her eyes she was scrambling for an excuse that didn't exist. I told her it wasn't the drunk part that bothered me. It was the honest part. She started crying again, reaching across the table to grab my hands, begging me to forgive her, saying she'd do anything to fix this. Then she had the audacity to ask for the ring back. I actually laughed. I couldn't help it, I couldn't believe her nerve. I explained that the ring was a conditional gift. No marriage meant no ring, and legally, it was mine. Her tears stopped instantly, and her face changed, anger flashing across her features. She accused me of being cruel, of punishing her for one mistake. I stood up to leave, and she grabbed my arm, her nails digging into my skin. She hissed that I had humiliated her in front of everyone. I pulled my arm away and simply told her she had humiliated herself. I walked out of that coffee shop and blocked her number, but I didn't block her on social media yet because I wanted to see what she would do next. I told Mark not to give her any information about where I was staying or when I'd be there. I thought maybe she'd calm down eventually, realize it was over, and move on. But I was completely wrong about that. Over the next 2 weeks, her family started contacting me. First Susan, her mom, then Richard, her dad, then Ashley, her sister. All of them saying I overreacted, that I should give her another chance, that I'd embarrassed her publicly and owed her an apology. Susan even sent me a long text saying I should return the ring because it was the right thing to do. I didn't respond to any of them. Then, about 3 weeks after the party, I started seeing posts on social media. Chloe had written a long story on her Instagram about how I publicly dumped her at our engagement party for no reason. She conveniently left out the part where she said she never wanted to marry me, of course, and painted herself as the victim of some cruel, unexplained breakup. Her friends shared it, her family shared it, and suddenly I was getting messages from people I barely knew, calling me heartless and asking what kind of man embarrasses his fiancée like that. I was furious, but I didn't respond right away. Instead, I reached out to David, the videographer we'd hired for the party. I asked if he still had the footage, and he confirmed he did. He sent me the full file that same night. I downloaded it to my phone and backed it up in 3 different places. The audio was crystal clear. You could hear every word she said at that bar. I didn't post it immediately though, because I wanted to see just how far she would take this lie. Turns out, pretty far. About a month after the engagement party, things escalated in ways I never could have predicted. Chloe's social media campaign was in full swing, and she convinced half her circle that I was some kind of monster who had dumped her out of nowhere. I was getting nasty messages almost daily. People I didn't even know were commenting on old photos of us, calling me cruel and heartless. Susan sent me a long email saying I'd destroyed her daughter's reputation and that I should man up and fix this. I ignored it, but then Richard started calling my workplace. He called 3 times in one day, and each time he didn't threaten me directly, but he made it clear he thought I owed his daughter an apology and the ring. The HR department actually had to get involved, and I had to sit down with my boss and explain the whole humiliating situation. I stayed silent publicly, but I could feel the pressure building from all sides. Then one night, about 5 weeks after the party, she showed up at Mark's place where I'd been staying. She somehow found out the address, maybe from a mutual friend, and she rang the doorbell at 10 p.m. Mark answered and told her I didn't want to see her, but she pushed past him into the living room. She started yelling that we needed to talk, that I couldn't just throw away 4 years, and I could smell the alcohol on her breath from across the room. I stayed calm and told her to leave or I'd call the police. She kept yelling, saying I was being ridiculous, that I was ruining both our lives over one stupid comment. That's when I pulled out my phone and opened the video file from the engagement party. I turned the screen toward her and played the clip of her at the bar saying those words, her voice clear as day. Her face went completely white. "Where did you get that?" she asked, her voice suddenly small and shaky. I told her David, the videographer, had sent me everything. We paid him to capture our special night, remember? She tried to grab my phone, but I pulled it back. I told her very clearly that if she didn't stop harassing me and spreading lies online, I would post this video everywhere and let people decide for themselves who was telling the truth. She started crying, accusing me of blackmailing her, saying I was trying to ruin her life. Mark physically walked her to the door, and the whole thing was caught on his Ring doorbell camera. She left screaming that I would regret this. I immediately backed up the video to cloud storage and sent copies to my email, just in case something happened to my phone. 2 days later, she made good on her threat. She posted another Instagram story claiming I was threatening her with content. Even though the video was literally just her own words at a public event with 80 witnesses, her friends ate it up without question. The comment section turned into a war zone. Half the people calling me unkind, the other half asking what actually happened and why she seemed so scared of a video from her own engagement party. I knew it was time to stop playing defense. I created a burner account, posted the full 90-second clip with clear audio, and tagged everyone who'd been sharing her lies. The videos spread through our social circle like wildfire within hours. You could hear everything, her laughing, her exact words about only saying yes because of the ring, her saying she never wanted to marry me. The comment section exploded. People who had been defending her went completely silent. Others apologized to me directly, and a few of her own friends commented saying they were shocked and disappointed. Her Instagram story disappeared within an hour, and she deleted her original post about me. But the damage to her reputation was done, and now she was the one being called out as a liar and a gold digger. Her family, however, doubled down hard. Susan sent me a threatening message, saying I'd violated her daughter's privacy and that they were exploring legal options. Ashley called me from a private number and screamed at me for 10 straight minutes about how I destroyed their family's reputation and that I was a vindictive monster. I hung up and blocked that number, too. Then, about a week later, I got a letter in the mail from a lawyer. It was a cease and desist, claiming I defamed Chloe by posting the video and demanding I take it down immediately. The letter also demanded I return the engagement ring, calling it stolen property. I took the letter straight to a lawyer of my own, and he actually laughed when he read it. He said the whole thing was nonsense, that the video was proof of her own words at a public event, so it couldn't be defamation, and that the ring was a conditional gift, which meant it was legally mine under established case law. He drafted a response letter laying out the facts and making it clear I wouldn't be intimidated by empty legal threats. But Chloe didn't stop there. She filed a complaint with our apartment management company claiming I'd been verbally unkind during our relationship and that she felt unsafe living there. Never mind that I'd moved out over a month ago and she was the one still in the apartment we'd shared. The landlord called me asking questions, clearly uncomfortable with the situation, and I had to explain everything and provide proof that I'd been staying with Mark since 3 days after the party. Then she tried to claim I owed back rent, which was a complete lie because I'd been paying my half every single month through automatic bank transfer until the day I moved out. I sent the landlord copies of every transaction, and he apologized for the confusion. My lawyer told me to start documenting absolutely everything. Every text, every call, every time she or her family contacted me or showed up somewhere. He said if the harassment continued, we'd need to file for a restraining order. I didn't think it would actually come to that, but I started keeping a detailed log anyway, writing down dates, times, and what happened. One night, about 2 months after the engagement party, the police showed up at Mark's door. 2 officers asked for me by name, and when I came outside, they said they'd received a report of domestic mistreatment. My heart dropped into my stomach. Chloe had filed a police report claiming I'd physically menaced her at Mark's apartment the night she showed up uninvited weeks earlier. She told them I'd grabbed her arm, pushed her against the wall, and threatened her if she didn't leave. It was a complete fabrication, every single word. I immediately told the officers I had video evidence of the entire encounter. I pulled up the Ring doorbell footage on Mark's phone and showed them everything. The video clearly showed her barging in, me staying on the opposite side of the room the entire time, and Mark calmly escorting her out without anyone touching her. The officers watched the entire video twice, exchanged a long look, and one of them asked if I wanted to file a counter-report. I asked what he meant, and he explained that what she was doing constituted harassment and that filing a false police report was a serious crime. I told him I'd think about it, and they left, but they made a note in their report that her claims were unfounded and contradicted by video evidence. I called my lawyer first thing the next morning, and he said that was the final straw. He told me we were filing for a restraining order immediately, that her behavior had crossed every legal and ethical line. We spent the next week gathering evidence, the video from the engagement party, screenshots of hundreds of messages from her and her family, the Ring doorbell footage, the false police report, records of her showing up at my workplace and Mark's place, everything. My lawyer filed the petition, and a court date was set for 3 weeks later. In the meantime, Chloe's behavior somehow got even worse. She started driving by Mark's place at random hours, and we caught her on the security camera twice, once at 2 a.m., just sitting in her car across the street, watching the house. She sent me emails from new addresses I hadn't blocked, begging me to drop the restraining order, saying we just needed to talk like adults and work this out. Susan, her mom, actually showed up at my workplace and tried to corner me in the parking lot after my shift, saying I was destroying a young woman's future over one drunken mistake. I recorded that entire interaction on my phone and added it to our evidence file, which was growing thicker by the day. By the time the court date arrived, I had a binder almost 2 inches thick full of documentation, and my lawyer said it was one of the most clear-cut harassment cases he'd ever seen. The day of the restraining order hearing, I showed up at the courthouse an hour early with my lawyer and Mark. I was nervous, not because I thought I'd lose, but because I'd never been to court before and didn't know what to expect. My lawyer had prepared me the night before, telling me to stay calm, answer questions directly, and let the evidence speak for itself. We sat in the waiting area, and I could feel my heart pounding in my chest. Then Chloe walked in with Susan and a lawyer they'd hired. She looked terrible, like she hadn't slept in weeks, dark circles under her eyes, and her hair pulled back in a messy ponytail. Susan immediately started glaring at me from across the room with pure hatred in her eyes. Chloe tried to make eye contact, but I looked away, focusing on the floor. The bailiff called us into the courtroom, and we all took our seats. The judge was a woman in her 50s who looked like she'd seen everything twice and wasn't impressed by any of it. My lawyer presented our case first, walking through the timeline of events, starting with the engagement party. He played the video of Chloe saying she never wanted to marry me, then showed all the messages from her and her family, the Ring doorbell footage of her forcing her way into Mark's apartment, and the false police report she'd filed. He presented the security camera logs of her driving by Mark's place at odd hours, the emails from fake accounts, and the recording of her mom ambushing me at work. The judge watched everything carefully, taking notes, her expression completely unreadable. Then it was Chloe's lawyer's turn. He tried to paint her as a woman who'd made one mistake while drunk and was now being punished excessively for it. He claimed she was just trying to apologize and get closure, that I was the one being vindictive by posting the video online and humiliating her publicly. He said the ring was worth $15,000, and that keeping it was cruel when she'd done nothing wrong except have too much champagne and say something stupid. My lawyer objected immediately and reminded the judge that conditional gifts return to the giver when the condition isn't met, which is well-established law in every state. The judge asked Chloe directly why she'd filed a false police report. Chloe started crying, saying she was scared and didn't know what else to do, that she just wanted to talk to me, but I wouldn't respond to any of her messages. The judge asked her why she needed to talk to me so badly if the relationship was over, and I'd made it clear I wanted no contact. Chloe didn't have a good answer, just kept saying she needed closure and that I owed her a conversation. Then the judge asked her about showing up at Mark's apartment uninvited at 10 p.m. after drinking. Chloe claimed she just wanted to return some of my things, but my lawyer immediately pointed out that the ring footage showed her arriving completely empty-handed with nothing to return. The judge looked at Chloe for a long moment, then looked down at all the evidence spread out on the bench in front of her. She said that what she was seeing wasn't someone seeking communication or closure. It was textbook harassment. She said Chloe had been given multiple opportunities to leave me alone, that I'd blocked her on every platform, moved out of our shared apartment, and made it crystal clear I wanted no contact. She said that filing a false police report was particularly serious because it wasted law enforcement resources and could have resulted in false criminal charges against an innocent person. Then the judge granted the restraining order for 1 full year. She said Chloe was to have absolutely no contact with me, direct or indirect, and couldn't come within 500 feet of Mark's address or my workplace. She also specifically ordered that Chloe couldn't contact me through third parties, which meant her family had to stop harassing me, too. Chloe started crying harder, and Susan actually stood up from her seat and started yelling at the judge, saying this was completely unfair and that I was the real villain who'd humiliated her daughter. The bailiff had to physically escort Susan out of the courtroom while she was still screaming. Chloe's lawyer tried to argue for a shorter duration, maybe 3 or 6 months, but the judge shut him down immediately, saying the pattern of behavior and the false police report warranted a full year minimum. As we left the courthouse, I felt like I could finally breathe properly for the first time in months. The weight that had been sitting on my chest since the engagement party finally lifted. Mark hugged me in the parking lot, and my lawyer shook my hand, telling me I'd done everything right and handled the situation perfectly. Over the next few weeks, I heard through mutual friends about the fallout on Chloe's side. Her family had lost thousands of dollars on wedding venue deposits that weren't refundable, plus the deposits on the catering, the band, and everything else they'd already booked. Most of her friends had distanced themselves after seeing the video and watching her lie to everyone about what really happened. People at her workplace had apparently started calling her the ring girl behind her back, and she'd become something of a cautionary tale in our social circle about what happens when you get engaged for the wrong reasons. Her Instagram went private, and she stopped posting entirely. I, on the other hand, started putting my life back together piece by piece. I sold the engagement ring to a jewelry buyer for $12,500, which was less than I'd paid, but still enough to completely pay off the personal loan and clear a big chunk of the credit card debt. Mark and I took a weekend trip to a city like Las Vegas with some of the leftover money, just to clear my head and have fun for the first time in months. I started going to therapy once a week to process everything that had happened. My therapist helped me understand that I'd been in a relationship with someone who didn't actually love me, just what I could provide for her. I moved into my own apartment 3 months after the court hearing. A small one-bedroom place that was just mine, with no shared memories or ghosts from the past. I changed my phone number, created new social media accounts with privacy settings locked down tight, and basically started my life fresh. The restraining order meant Chloe couldn't reach out even if she wanted to. And honestly, it was the best gift the court could have given me. I started sleeping through the night again without waking up to check the doorbell camera every hour. I stopped jumping every time my phone buzzed with a notification. I started dating casually after a few months. Nothing serious, just remembering what it felt like to talk to someone who actually wanted to be there with me. Looking back now, almost a year later, I realized that night at the engagement party was the best thing that could have happened to me. If she hadn't gotten drunk and told the truth, I would have married someone who was only with me for material things and what I could buy her. I would have wasted years of my life, maybe had kids, built a whole life with someone who was pretending the entire time and counting down the days. People ask me sometimes if I have any regrets about how I handled it. None. The trash took itself out that night at that bar. I just held the door open and let it leave. My advice to anyone hearing this is simple: when someone shows you who they really are, believe them the first time. Drunk words are sober thoughts. And if someone tells you they never wanted to be with you, they mean it deep down. Don't waste your time trying to convince someone to love you or prove your worth to them. Just walk away and find someone who already sees it. What would you have done in my shoes?